How's it going, Rogue Scholar, and welcome to another Flesh and Blood video. Well, today's video isn't exactly about Flesh and Blood, but it does involve the Flesh and Blood community. Today's video is something that I don't normally do. We're not really talking about any specific games, we're more like talking about communities here. And I think it's really important, and it's, I think it's going to be a fun and interesting video. Before we get started, I do want to show my affiliate links just really quick. Check out Channel Fireball, Fab Foundry, or Red Riot Games if you're looking to pick up some Flesh and Blood product or any other game from Channel Fireball. Using those links goes and supports me, and I greatly appreciate it. It helps me continue to do all of this card game content, and you know, I'm thankful for that. Or you can go ahead and check out my Patreon if you'd like to support me directly. Shout out to all the awesome patrons out there. We do have a community Discord that's exclusive to patrons, so you can go check that out. We talk about all sorts of video games and board games, card games, all that kind of stuff over there. Really good folks. But without further ado, let's get started with today's video. I'm not really sure what I'm going to call this. Probably something along the lines of why be enemies when we can be friends, because that's something that I found myself saying in kind of like this private Flesh and Blood chat that I'm a part of. So to like peel back the curtain, I don't know why that's peeling back the curtain, to part the curtain just a little bit. I'm actually part of a couple little like private Facebook chats that have like some various content creators, and it was me, and I'll go ahead and shout them out. I'm sure they're totally fine with me saying who they are. It's me, Kitchen Table TCG, DM Armada, Deck Edge, Fab TCG, and Ian from Right Time Gaming. And we're just kind of like in this little chat, and we're talking about like community and positivity. And I found myself typing, why be enemies when we can be friends, you know? And it wasn't like in response to anything negative or anything. They were actually talking about how great the community is and how everyone's like friends. And it was just kind of like this almost epiphany that I had. It's like, well, of course we're friends. Why would we be enemies? There's like no reason to be enemies. But the thing is that is not true for all communities, right? There is some stigma in other gaming communities. And I'm not going to name names here. You're going to be like, oh, you're just making this up. But I mean, like, come on now. Like, there's definitely other communities that are very exclusive, that are very like gatekeepery, especially on the content creator level. You know, there's a lot of like, you know, fend for yourself, I got mine, you go get yours yourself kind of mentality in these other communities. And I've been a part of a lot of them, right? I've made content for Force of Will, Flesh and Blood, Magic the Gathering. I've done some, you know, scattered videos for like Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, all this kind of stuff here. And a lot of those communities are very exclusive, especially when it gets to like the higher end content creators. They kind of want to ignore most of the little guys, or like, you know, peasants, not worth their time. With some exceptions. I do want to give a shout out to Tolarian Community College here. Brian over there, the professor, is an excellent dude, and he was cool enough to be, you know, on my channel. I do have that interview with him, and you know, despite me having like a smaller channel, him coming on here and talking about Flesh and Blood, which is really cool. And it's that kind of like mentality, you know, why be enemies when we can be friends, that I really think that the Flesh and Blood community has right now, and I really hope it's something that stays as the game grows, because the game is growing, right? The game is growing quite a bit, and it's only going to grow more, you know, from here. And who knows what content creators, where we're going to be a year from now. Hopefully I'll be over 10K. That's a personal goal of mine. I think we can get there this year, but it doesn't matter how big this channel grows. I will still be friends with, you know, all these other content creators. And it's not just like Kitchen Table TCG and DM Armada. You know, I've been on Bronson. I've been on Drinking with Bronson. I plan to be on a couple other YouTube channels a little bit later this month, or maybe this year. It's really busy. It's hard to schedule this kind of stuff. But I think it's really cool. And I think the openness and the willingness to just be friends is something that's really important, and really like a hallmark of the Flesh and Blood community. We are actually a community. We're not just a bunch of like loose players who just, you know, keeping out for themselves. There's a lot of camaraderie here, and it's something that, you know, I really like. I do also want to give a shout out to the Force of Will community. I mix those up sometimes. The Force of Will community, also a good community. It was a much smaller community when I got into it, though I did get into it still pretty early. And the content creators who did Force of Will, oh my god, dude, they were also a pretty, you know, good community. So I made friends with like the TCG scrubs. I've done stuff with Ruler School back in the day. There was some other guys like who don't even do content anymore. What was their even name? I don't remember a lot of them. Man, it's been so long. But you might be like, oh, you're not a very good friend. Dude, it's been a long time, man. It's been a long time. Yeah, like, I think this is very important. And I can see, like, people getting into that mentality where you're like, well, it's a competition, right? We're all fighting for the same viewers. It's a competition. It's easy for you to say when you got, like, one of the bigger channels right now. But even if I didn't, and even if I... So, like, both ways. What I'm trying to say is, like, if I had a smaller channel, I would still be friends with everyone. If I had a bigger channel, I would still be friends with everyone. And I think... I mean, it's part of it's just, like, being a good person. Like, being a good and friendly person. And that's what a lot of these content creators for Flesh and Blood are. I haven't met literally every one of them, but everyone that I've met, they've been all, like, really cool people. And part of it's also just, like, realizing we're all part of, like, the same whole, like, the same community. Even though, like, I have, like, the Rogues Gallery out there, you guys are awesome. We talk about more than just Flesh and Blood here. We talk about a lot of different card games. But I know there's, like, a lot of overlap there. And I can see, you know, the analytics. I can see what other channels that people who watch my channel watch. And it's a lot of these other ones, right? If you look at the top ones, I'm pretty sure the top, like, Red Zone Rogue crossover channel audience kind of thing, Tolarian Community College, Alpha Investments, and then there's also DM Armada, Kitchen Table TCG, and then you start to see other ones like Team Covenant and a lot of other stuff. And there's a bunch of Magic channels too, which I know, I mean, that tells me a lot of the audience out there who watches these videos are into Magic too. Yeah, like I said, it's really easy for people to get into the mindset where, like, this is a competition, and, like, you know, I need to fight over the views, and I need to fight over the subscribers and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, I know a lot of those folks out there. You can comment in the comments down below and tell me if this is true. A lot of folks out there subscribe to multiple channels, right? I know I do personally. I'm subscribed to almost every Flesh and Blood channel out there. And when a new one pops up that's good, and I'm like, holy crap, why am I not subscribed to these people? And even then, if I see something, I'll give them a shout out. I've given a shout out to Fab Cracks and some other content creators when I've watched their stuff, and I'm like, holy crap, why are not more people subscribed to this? It's really good stuff. So that's kind of the discussion I wanted to have today, and it spurs a lot, or it's spurned by a lot of other sentiments in the gaming community, not just like the tabletop card gaming community, but the community at large, right? There's a lot of these fan bases in the, like, the nerd community or whatever that are very gatekeeping and exclusory, is that even a word? Where people are like, you know, Marvel only, DC sucks, or like PlayStation only, Xbox sucks, that kind of stuff. And, like, why? Like, why? I know why, but, like, why? Like, why actually? Like, why not be friends? Why do we have to be enemies? There's so many other reasons that people are, like, enemies in this world. Why do we have to make our hobbies part of that? Why can't we just be friends? And this is going to sound like all, like, hippie stuff as I wear my, like, crab shirt. Like, I'm serious, though. Like, I'm serious. Just be cool to people, man. Like, at the end of the day, like, when all is said and done, just, like, be cool to people. Like, there's no reason to be enemies with someone. Like, if there's another content creator out there or whatever, like, there's no reason at all. In fact, there's more reasons to be friends because, you know, you get these really excellent experiences and, like, these shared stories, and you can, like, talk about stuff that, you know, you can relate to and all this kind of stuff. And there's, like, a million reasons to be, like, cynical about that. You know, people can be like, oh, you only want them for, like, the views or, like, the collabs and all that kind of stuff. But I don't see it that way, and I know a lot of other folks don't see it that way as well. I think that's a very pessimistic way to think about it. Straw man out there as I insert these straw man arguments, because I can always see, like, I can see the negativity in things. I personally used to be a very, very, like, negative person, like, growing up. And in the last, I don't know, 5 to 10 years of my life, I've just kind of, like, turned a corner, and I'm like, why? Like, there's no point to be, this is kind of a negative thing to say, there's no point to being negative or rude or anything like that. It's not self-serving to you or anyone else to be, like, a jerk. So now I'm just, like, rambling about philosophy and all this kind of stuff, loose philosophy about just being like a good person and all this kind of stuff. And you know, if you're a content creator out there and you don't want to like talk with anyone or be friends, that's totally cool, man. Just do you. I'm not saying everyone has to be friends with everyone, but what I am saying is that I love how the community is so friendly and so like open and welcome, and like at least for the Red Zone Rogue community, the Rogues gallery out there, a lot of people are accepting of multiple card games. And that's another thing too. Like I mentioned, like video games, like console wars and like comic book fandoms. But like I can see this gap starting to form in like the card game community between like Flesh and Blood players and Magic the Gathering players and like even like Pokemon and Digimon players and all this kind of stuff, where people are like, you know, I hate Flesh and Blood, I only like Magic, that kind of stuff. And like, I think that does a disservice to everyone. There is room for all of these games. You know, I made that video where I was talking about like, are we in a TCG renaissance? And the big takeaway point that I had for that video is that there are room for all of these things. There's room for you to like Magic. There's room for you to like Pokemon or Flesh and Blood or whatever. And if you like multiple games, that's awesome. If you can't like have the time or money to get into multiple games, that's totally cool too. But I think there's room, and I think like there's like space for us to like band together as like a card game community, and to be like a stronger community as a whole as things open up in 2021 and 2022. You know, when we go to conventions, Gen Con, Comic Con, all this stuff, it'd be great to see like card game players of all types just kind of like banding together and, you know, forming this really, really strong, tight-knit community. I think there's potential to be there. I don't know if it's there now, but I think there's potential to be there. And I think the Flesh and Blood community's already there and can stand as a really good example for this kind of thing. All right, I've talked a lot here. How long has this video gone on for? Like 13 minutes? Oh, geez. All right, well, I think you've gotten the point. I just kind of wanted to talk about this. It was all spurned by that comment that I found myself making, which is, you know, I don't find myself making a lot of like, you know, inspirational community kind of stuff. But it was surprising, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, why be enemies when we can be friends? Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Big shout out to my patrons out there and everyone subscribed to this channel. You guys are awesome. And you know, if the takeaway for this video is just like, be cool to people, man. Be excellent to each other, as the immortal words of the Wild Stallions, Keanu Reeves, and the other guy. Be excellent to each other. So yeah, man, be excellent to each other. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time for some more card game content. See you later.